Welcome to Jazz Therapy, where we explore the intersectionality of jazz, the psyche and psychoanalytic thought, spirituality, and consciousness. I'm your host, Jessie Shapiro. I'm going to start us off today by reading a couple quotes from Lena Horne, who we will be listening to today and celebrating. And these are 3 quotes in her words. Don't be afraid to feel as angry or as loving as you can, because when you feel nothing, it's just death. That's number 1. Number 2, always be smarter than the people who hire you. And finally, I made a promise to myself to be kinder to other people. Some wise words from Lena Horne. Well, my guest today is Dylan Anderson. Welcome, Dylan, and thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
I'm really excited to just dive in. And so I thought I would maybe have you reflect on really what brings you passion in life. It could be, part of your work life. It could be part of your personal life. We'll just kind of go from there. So I'm curious about when you hear that, what passion is for you right now in your life. What brings that about?
Thinking about that question, I'm like, I've learned a lot about myself recently over the past few years, and one thing that I think is kind of topical with the podcast that kind of makes me feel like, I don't know, what am I passionate about? I believe that I don't know, I'm not a very spiritual person. So when I think of spirituality, I think more about like universal experiences, like from people who are like across the globe. And I feel like music, it really is a way to connect people and make them feel the same things, even though they're living drastically different lives. And so like my spirituality and passion, I've just really learned to love music and lyrics and poetry and like like a little joke I make is like never kill yourself because you have a new favorite song that's coming in the next year. Like, and those music has just always really helped me like with my emotions and writing and just the arts in general, entertainment, like being on the stage, being with people who are into acting and singing and dancing and all of those things. Like musicality really is what I'm passionate about, and lyricism specifically, like writing, I really, really love.
Oh, I love that. And the arts are so meaningful for us. They reflect our human experiences that we have. And really this podcast is about, there's no really one form of spirituality or anything that anyone has to be. It's really about the journey of individuation of every person becoming the unique divine embodiment that they are, the totality of their darkness and light, the shadows, our feminine and masculine parts, just really becoming, an authentic being. And so I'm curious when you mention kind of a variety of arts, just what that looks like in your life in terms of music, acting,
Yeah.
writing.
I mean, I feel like it used to be a lot more of my life. Like, I grew up acting in school, and we played instruments at school all the time. Like, we learned how to play the recorder and the drums. And um, the acting class that I actually took when I was a kid, I now teach alongside the person that taught me. Like, which I feel like is a testament to how much it really affected me and the positive experience I had, the friends I made. Like, I'm still best friends with the people that I met in this acting class. Um, but it's been more recently, and like the past few years, it's been like poetry and music, like writing my own to process emotions and listening to others to, even though I've never met this other person, they are able to write about an experience that I analyze or see as similar to mine, even though it's so drastically different, has nothing to do with me. Um, and so, as of recently, I've been loving getting into like smaller singer songwriters and seeing what they have to say and what their sound is like, and just relating to them and I feel like that is my main focus right now, is singer-songwriters and smaller singer-songwriters and seeing the stories that they have to tell.
Oh, that's beautiful. Well, I would love to hear some of your poetry. We might have to have you record some and edit some in
I
so
mean,
that
I would love to.
we can hear that part of you. I also am so intrigued by poetry because I often feel intimidated by it, like I don't always understand what is being said, and I would love to hear
Yeah. Well, I
that
think
part of your expression.
one thing that I do is, I mean, like, yes, sometimes I feel really pretentious when I'm writing poetry and I'm like on purpose choosing certain words to make it harder to understand, or to make it have multiple meanings, or to have it do all these things. But one thing, like, my mom one time was like, "Oh, is this poem about me?" And I was like, "No, but why do you think that? I think it's cool that you think that this poem could be written about you. I don't want to tell you what it's about. The fact that you see yourself in it is enough for you to connect with it and to find meaning in it, whether or not I meant that. Like, it's not about you, but it is about you." Like, I yes, poetry can seem daunting and intimidating, but I think also the whole point of it is whatever you get out of it is what the writer is meaning for you to get out of it. Like, sure, they might have a different goal, but personally, I think it's beautiful when other people come up with their own interpretations for things that I or other people have written.
Well, that's so lovely too, because your mom projected into the poetry and was wondering, was that about her, and then I imagine that generated some reflection, and that happens so often for us when we go to a museum and we see painting, or we go to a play and we might interpret a character a certain way, or even what we're doing on this show is, by listening to jazz, everybody will have their own experience of the art form. So I think I like that. That's helpful, that there's maybe no one right way to interpret poetry. It's just kind of what comes up, and what we can each get from it individually.
Well, that's how I feel. There might be some authors out there that are pretentious douchebags and are like, "No, you got it wrong." But I think it's art, and I think that however you interpret it is beautiful. Like, even if I'm like, "That's actually not at all what I meant, and you're actually really wrong," I think it's beautiful that you felt that it made you feel enough to connect it to this way. Like, I would never tell someone that the way that they viewed my poetry was wrong.
Hmm. Well, I love that too, because then it really becomes a vehicle for our own self reflection. Like, it's something that's coming out of us that we're seeing or is emerging, and then we can just kind of use it to reflect more and understand parts of ourselves, which is actually really hard.
Yeah.
It's easier to just judge, or want like a right answer. I was
Yeah.
with my uncle recently, and we were over at a art museum, and he was saying, like, I'm trying to figure this out, like, what does it mean? And I said, well, I think it could be very subjective, like whatever is inside of us,
Exactly.
and we
Exactly.
can feel that pressure to kind of know. And
Well, it's totally a thing just in modern society. I mean, society throughout history, that we feel like we need the answer. We feel like we need to know, oh, this is why, this is why, this is why. And sure, you can come to your own conclusions, but a lot of things that you're like, this is why, you don't actually know. And I feel like I've learned pretty recently that, like, as much as I need to know, want to know, need to get reassurance, need to get that, like, obsessed with it, I have been able to, I don't know, understand that sometimes you're just not gonna know. And does it suck? Yes. Does it suck not to know everything all the time? Yes. But you're never going to be able to move on with your life if you're constantly thinking about the things that you don't know. Because I do know that I have so much love in my life. I do know that that's my new favorite song. I do know that that movie that I just watched was so great. I do know that life keeps moving on no matter what, if I know or not what, for what reasons other people do things, what this thing means, what that means, what other people do to me. I don't know. Just giving it away and being okay with not knowing, I feel like has been a huge part of my journey recently.
well, Dylan, you are spiritual. You are dropping spiritual truths on us just by even like re-emphasizing the importance of embracing uncertainty And I find this in myself. I talk about this on this podcast a lot. Like I'll have a tendency to want to grasp at things or cling to them or figure things out. And so much of life, as you're talking to about, is uncertainty. And we have to kind of surrender and release. And then I think you're sort of describing like refocusing your energy on that which nourishes you, the arts, the love that you have in your life.
Totally, totally.
I love that. I feel like I needed to hear that today.
Yeah, I definitely, especially, I don't know. I went through like a devastating friend breakup, whatever, about like 2 years ago. And that was like the darkest I've ever felt myself go. But the writing and the music and just like refocusing, like I was so obsessed for so long of like pinning down why I wasn't good enough, why they didn't want me, what does this mean? What does that mean that they said? What action, like why did they do that? And I'm obsessed with ruminating and thinking about that and going over and over that. But then at some point you just come up with 10,000 different answers as to why. And it's like, well, then if it's that answer, then this. And it's like, okay, what if they just did that? What if that's just what happened and there was no ulterior motive? And to live with the ability of just being like, okay, you did that to me, bye. Like, no matter what the reasoning was, no matter if he was abused or like if this is the way that his family acts or whatever, I've just learned to like, yeah, focus on the things that you know and focus on the things that are making your life better and happier and fill you with love rather than trying to grab onto things that you want or you wish you could have.
I just got goosebumps as you were talking because I am so much wired the same way, to be a ruminator, to be an obsessor. And it's like staying on that hamster wheel does not get you like that peace and that love or even clarity.
It makes it worse.
Yeah, it really does. And yet I can still sort of get hooked into that. And I think you kind of just anticipated what I was also going to be curious about, is like how you get through or navigate through really painful or difficult moments in your life. And I heard you speak to, number one, kind of recognizing that you might be stuck, and then making a really conscious and mindful choice to like redirect that energy to something that is going to kind of nourish you. And sometimes we just have to like do that.
Yeah.
And just like really make ourselves go there. And
no,
then
totally.
the state of feeling shifts for us.
Yeah. I mean, I definitely still struggle with the rumination in other ways and like thinking about things too much. I mean, too much is subjective, obviously, but more than I would like to. And just, I don't know, I've watched so many doctors on TikTok and people who deal with like obsessive compulsive disorder type things. And they've really given me a lot of great tools because it's like, as irrational as the rumination goes, it still feels very real in the moment. And just literally just like, have you heard of the let them theory? I haven't read the book, but it's like a huge book right now. It's just like, I don't know. I feel like for so long I would have wanted to get revenge or to get back at or to figure out exactly why, and then tit for tat, eye for an eye. And it's just like, what do I even get? Like the anger within me, like, sure, it means that I cared, or sure, it means this or that, but it's just like being angry is such a choice for me. I would rather go to sad. And so putting the energy into being angry about something or being sad about it, it's just like, it's not going to bring them back. It's not going to give me what I want. Like, just live your life, move on. Which it takes time, obviously, but I I feel like I'm rambling and saying nothing, but
You are speaking so many truths right now that I resonate with so much. And it took me such a long time to really truly get that we actually do make a choice as to the state of feeling that we are in, that we can choose to hold on to be angry, and we can choose to hold on and be sad. and it really is within us to kind of to shift ourselves out of that. And I feel like I just so much appreciate your bravery and vulnerability, because I still see myself getting hooked by this. And then I also know that I do have the capacity now to shift. There was a long time, I think, in my life that I really just was like so righteously indignant about holding on to these feelings. And now when you sort of know you can move to a different place, it really does feel so empowering, because we really are, the programmers of our mind, of our spiritual state of being. So
Yeah,
I
exactly.
I appreciate that so much. I'm curious if you could talk about how kind of your philosophy, spirituality, passion manifests in your professional life, in the role that you play in the world, sort of being of service. And I'm curious about what that looks like.
I mean, I feel like it's the way that I've lived my life since I was like a little kid. Oh my God, am I gonna cry? No. Okay. Um,
And you know what? I cry all the time on this podcast, and I definitely will when we hear the music. So that is absolutely welcome. All emotions are welcome here.
Thank you, thank you. Just, I don't know, as a kid, I feel like I was a really secretly sad kid. Like, I wasn't really telling anybody that. Like, my whole goal in my life, I feel like, is just to make other people laugh, to make other people happy. Like, I want to leave a space, and those people are like, oh my gosh, I'm so glad Dylan came. I had such a good time. He made me laugh. He made me smile. He made me whatever. I'm just like making people's days better. I don't know. Because even no matter how like much I'm freaking out or feeling anxious or whatever, I know how much it sucks to feel that way. So I always want to try to make other people feel comfortable and feel happy and better than the way that I met them.
That is so beautiful too. And this reminds me of, you're just like dropping spiritual truths all over on us today. Another um, piece of wisdom that a friend of mine gave me, I think I was asking him, like, well, what should I pray? I was having a challenging time in a relationship. And I said, oh, should I pray for this person that they grow or open spiritually? And he looked at me and he was like, you should just pray that both of you are a blessing to whoever you're around. And
Mm-hmm.
it was so humbling. And it was like, yeah, that's not my place to say somebody should be any different or any other way. I can pray for someone's well-being or wish that. However, I do have the power to uplift, anyone who I'm around just through my very presence. And I think that's what you're really speaking to.
Yeah, and so like at work, like I'm always just trying to like even though maybe it's not the most professional, I try to get in little jokes every once in a while because I'm just like otherwise it's so boring and like no one will want to be here. Like I like they're not completely unprofessional obviously. Like I'm not kicked out of work, but like I just want to like I want to be able to make things don't have to be so serious all the time. Like there's moments for that, but it's just like lightheartedness and the not caring, the free flowing vibe is just, I feel like it's so much easier for everyone. Because also, one thing I've noticed is the less you start judging other people, you stop judging yourself as much, or vice versa. I've noticed that, like, when I have started to give grace to others or to just like, if I've been really talking myself down, I'll notice that I will also talk other people down in my head. And when you're just like, whatever, like, I don't care, you also stop caring about yourself or them or whatever. And it's just like, find beauty in it. I don't know.
That is so true. And that's so beautiful as well. Just that, and again, it comes back to kind of having that awareness and mindfulness, and then tuning in. And I think you're saying that really giving compassion to yourself and others, it is so much more freeing. And maybe also that's what allows kind of all of the more fun and playful energy to come.
Yeah.
I'm curious as to how you sort of balance that with your role as a realtor, and just, being in that space, which is business
Yeah.
as one would imagine. And then also it's such a intimate and just such an important part of someone's life to be purchasing a home or a building or whatever. And I just would love to hear about
Yeah.
that part of your life, and sort of the synergies of those energies that you were speaking to.
So I really only, got my license in January of this year. And I feel like one thing that people always emphasize when it comes to business is networking and like making those relationships. And I feel like I have a knack for connecting with people like very quickly. And so like I feel like one way that this manifests is at my open houses that I do. I try to do at least every Saturday, if not every weekend. Um, I don't know. I have an ability to connect and talk to people as if they're my friends from the get go. And I want to make those jokes. I want to ask them questions. I actually am interested in strangers. I don't know. I like learning about because um, there's this thing called sonder. It's like the realization that every single person on earth is living a just as complicated life as you are, which seems very obvious, but like you don't really think about that. Like sometimes people can become just characters in your life, and it really is like, no, they are living just as a complex life as you are. And coming to realize that, like, if I don't connect with these people, I wouldn't want to buy a house from someone that I didn't feel like was a family friend or a friendly or whatever. Like I want to feel connected to this person with the biggest purchase of my life. Like I've written offers, I haven't really made any money, I haven't purchased a house with anybody, haven't listed a house yet, but I feel like my one strength right now is the relationships that I'm creating with people that may in the future want to buy or list a house that would help grow my career, but also I know I do good work. I connect with people. I want to make them feel good and safe and comfortable when it comes to this huge purchase. And I just meeting people where they're at and becoming their friend is kind of like the way that I'm conducting my business. Like it should be competitive. It should be like making money, trying to get transactions, whatever. And it's like to a certain extent, yes, that's what I want to do. I want to make money. I want to have business and live my life and whatever. But the most important part to me, it's the same reason why I worked in food service for so long. I Even though I didn't know these people and probably would never know them again, like for 45 minutes, I make them laugh. They make me laugh. I make their day better, they make mine better. I don't know. I feel like that's how it comes into my professional life, that just connecting with people even if it's for a short while and they don't ever talk to me again. That's what how I try to intertwine that into my daily life.
Well, I just hear you deeply honoring the humanity of every person that you're interacting with and speaking to recognizing that everyone is having a complex experience. It reminds me of the quote by Socrates, which is something like, as I paraphrase, be kind, for you never know what kind of battle a person is fighting. Right. Just that
Exactly.
everybody, and we're all on our paths of individuation and growth. And I hear you just wanting to bring that spirit to all the interactions that you have. And I would love to have you as my realtor. I would love to develop more investments. Where can people find you to look you up to work with you?
My Instagram is your realtor Dylan. My TikTok is dylan.realestate. My email is dranderson at windermereca.com. Um, yeah, that's where you can find me. That's pretty much
And
it right now.
we'll put all these links in the description to the podcast as well so that
Yeah,
everybody can find you.
sounds good.
And I wondered before we go to the music and the meditation, just your thoughts on, there's been a lot written about how younger generations just do not have the same sort of economic power. It's harder for younger people to buy homes. And yet it also is just such a milestone that we, all want in society. And I wonder, just I'm curious about your thoughts or any words of advice or encouragement or just anything in that vein, because we're in a very challenging economic climate. Just anything that comes to mind in terms of reflecting on this.
Well, this goes from, I don't know. My business answer is I completely understand like how hard it is in this economy to buy your first home. Um, it's such a huge milestone to be able to like. There's great programs for first time home buyers now where you can get as low as like 3%, 3.5% down. So like it's making it more accessible, but my like heart and soul is like burn it all down, burn down the establishment, make it easier to buy a home. I want everybody to be able to have access to the things that they need, to each their own. It's like to each their own ability, to each their own needs, whatever that saying is. Like my own personal philosophy is burn it all down, everybody gets a house. But I also know that that might not be able to happen as quickly as one might like. So it's just, yes, it is daunting and hard, and it has only become more hard to buy a home, especially when you're younger, because it's harder to save. It's hard, like you have other expenditures, and rent is so high. But it's less. It's not as hard as I feel like people are taught. I feel like that is something that is put out there because it also helps. Like I think the majority of people who own real estate are like boomers. They only make up like 20% of the population, but they own like 60 or 80% of real estate. And I don't, it's like, yes, it is hard. It's hard to save. It totally is. It's hard to get yourself into that home, to have the money to even pay the closing costs and everything. But if you try really hard and focus and talk to the right resources for saving, for finding out what programs you're eligible for like low down payments or whatever, owning a home is it's actually able to happen for more people than they think. I think that we are told it's really hard, and it is really hard, but it's also because people don't have the information. People don't know how real estate works. Like I didn't know anything until I started. I barely knew anything. And now I'm realizing, like, in my mind, I was like, I won't be able to own a home for such a long time. But I'm like, now I may be able to own it earlier than I thought I would.
That is beautiful. And I hear again in your answer like a very deep, like radical humanism that is like spirituality. You're sort of saying, I really believe that everyone should have a roof over their heads. And I completely agree. And in the current context of where we are living, I think you're trying to say and encourage people to just believe they can, set the intention, and then start and seek out information and resources. I really appreciate that message. That's lovely.
Yeah, because I don't want to tell poor people you're not doing enough to get a house. Like that's not what I mean. I mean like you can try your hardest and it's still not maybe able to, but if you just have the right info, maybe you could still get that house that you want. Like maybe you still can get that thing that you want. You just don't have the resources or information, which is on purpose. It's to make sure that the people who have the homes can keep buying and whatever. Like it's on purpose that people are not educated about certain things when it comes to business and it comes to real estate. Like it's meant so that, because without renters, how are all the landlords going to keep making all their money? So I think that just educating people on how to get their own home, how to own their own property is what's the most imperative.
That is so important. I mean, finding out about all the resources, what's available, that really can be very empowering.
And I'm not
That's
saying
it.
it's me. I'm not saying that I have all the answers, but I do know a lot of great people who have all the answers. Like people probably don't even know that they have to talk to a lender to buy a house, and they're like, what? Like I thought I could just get a loan. And it's like, no, but that lender can give you vital information as to saving, to what you can afford, to all these things. And it's just like it purely is down to education is what it is.
This is just coming to me now since you do have a TikTok and Instagram. I just wonder if you'd ever do a series of like shorts about this. These are the steps that a person needs to go through to buy a home. I just think that could be super fascinating and interesting. And I just see that you have the passion for it. And there's so many folks who would just eat that information up. So, and you have
That is
the
true. Good
persona
idea.
and the charisma for it. So that could be really cool. Is you like, you're a trusted source of information. I think also people just can tend to get overwhelmed with like, where do I even start? So that
Yes.
that just came to me right now. I'm just putting it out
No,
there.
that's a great idea. You're right.
So check Dylan's Instagram and TikTok in a bit, and maybe we could
Yeah,
see
maybe
that.
we'll have them there.
That would be great. All right. Well, we are going to segue now to our meditation portion of jazz therapy. And we are going to do a loving kindness meditation today. And then we are going to listen to the music of Lena Horne. And we're going to do this metta meditation specifically for the LGBTQIA plus community. which is definitely under siege in these political times. And this is very apropos and falls under the category of civil rights because Lena Horne was actually a civil rights activist in addition to an actor and a singer. So this is kind of a way of honoring her and also just the tradition and spirit of what we do at Jazz Therapy. So we'll just do this. It shouldn't take too long. If you're driving or walking, just stop so you don't close your eyes while you're doing that. So we'll just do this short meditation, then we'll go on to the music. Okay, so we're just going to close our eyes. And if you want, you can put your hand over your heart center area. And just take a couple natural deep breaths. And first, we're just going to imagine. I want you to imagine your heart center area, and I want you to imagine your entire body being filled with golden light, just going up through your chest, your neck, your head, your groin and legs until your whole body is filled with this liquid golden light. And you can repeat after me silently or out loud if you would like, if you're doing this along with us, since we always start with ourselves. May I be peaceful, content, free from danger, and liberated. That's beautiful. And now we're going to imagine that we are going to send a laser beam of light out from our hearts to every individual who would fall under the LGBTQIA plus spectrum. This is a group that's very vulnerable, getting highly scapegoated, even by federal institutions like the Supreme Court, who are failing to protect this group. So just imagine from your heart, everybody who is LGBTQIA plus in the whole world. So just imagine like this laser beam kind of covering the entire globe, specifically for everyone in this population. And we're going to say, may everyone who is LGBTQIA plus be peaceful, content, free from danger, and be liberated. And now, and this is maybe a little bit harder, we're going to send the same love to everyone who is afraid of the LGBTQIA plus population, who is potentially hostile, folks who want to end transgender care, even the Supreme Court, who legislates, enacts policies that are not protecting this group. I know deep down they have their views for a certain reason. So everyone who has strong feelings towards LGBTQIA plus, we're going to send from our hearts this golden beam of light out to everybody who maybe has a phobia or hostility or whatever. We're going to send this golden beam of light out and cover the entire globe. May everyone who falls in this category be peaceful, content, free from danger, and be liberated. And just come back here to the present moment when you're ready with us, and open your eyes. Well, thank you guys and Dylan for doing that.
Yeah.
And this sets the stage now for us moving on to Lena Horne. And this is from pbs.org, American Masters. The legendary Lena Horne, even in her 80s, had a quality of timelessness about her, Elegant and wise, she personified both the glamour of Hollywood and the reality of a lifetime spent battling racial and social injustice. Pushed by an ambitious mother into the chorus line of the Cotton Club when she was 16 and maneuvered into a film career by the NAACP, she was the first African American signed to a long-term studio contract. In her rise beyond Hollywood's racial stereotypes of maids, butlers, and African natives, she achieved true stardom on the silver screen and became a catalyst for change even beyond the glittery fringes of studio life. Born in Brooklyn in 1917, Lena Horne became one of the most popular African American performers of the 1940s and 50s. At the age of 16, she was hired as a dancer in the chorus of Harlem's famous Cotton Club. There, she was introduced to a growing community of jazz performers, including Billie Holiday, Cab Calloway, and Duke Ellington. She also met Harold Arlen, who would write her biggest hit, Stormy Weather. For the next 5 years, she performed in New York nightclubs on Broadway and touring with the Charlie Barnet Orchestra. Singing with Barnett's primarily white swing band, Horne was one of the first Black women to successfully work on both sides of the color line. Within a few years, Horne moved to Hollywood, where she played small parts in the movies. At this time, most Black actors were kept from more serious roles, and though she was beginning to achieve a high level of notoriety, the color barrier was still strong. Quote, "In every other film, I just sang a song or two. The scenes could be cut out when they were sent to a local distributor in the South. Unfortunately, I didn't get much of a chance to act," she said. Cabin in the Sky and Stormy Weather were the only movies in which I played a character who was involved in the plot. Her elegant style and powerful voice were unlike any that had come before, and the public and the executives in the entertainment industry began to take notes. By the mid-40s, Horne was the highest paid Black actor in the country. Her renditions of Deed I Do, As Long as I Live, and Cole Porter's Just One of Those Things became instant classics. For the thousands of Black soldiers abroad during World War II, Horne was the premier pinup girl. Much like her good friend Paul Robeson, Horne's great fame could not prevent the wheel of the anti-communist machine from bearing down on her. Her civil rights activism and friendship with Robeson and others marked her as a communist sympathizer. Like many politically active artists of the time, Horne found herself blacklisted and unable to perform on television or in the movies. For 7 years, the attack on her person and political beliefs continued. However, Horne worked as a singer, appearing at nightclubs and making some of her best recordings. Lena Horne at the Waldorf Astoria, recorded in 1957, is still considered to be one of her best. In 1963, she participated in the March on Washington and performed at rallies throughout the country for the National Council of Negro Women. She followed that with a decade of international touring, recording, and acting on both television and the silver screen. Horne had found in her growing audience a renewed sense of purpose. All this came crashing down when her father, son, and husband died in a period of 12 months during the early 1970s. Wow. Horne retreated almost completely from public life. It was not until 1981 that she fully returned, making a triumphant comeback with a one-person show on Broadway, Lena Horne, the Lady and Her Music. Much has changed since the 16-year-old girl who was Lena Horne danced in her first tentative steps across the stage of the Cotton Club. Through myriad triumphs and challenges, she paved the way to stardom for countless others in the entertainment industry. Her continued musical, theatrical, and political efforts grew with the times and met each new decade with courage and grace. And this was a short biography of Lena Horne. She just did so much. So thank you guys for hanging in there with me. I really wanted to get enough that really covered what a pioneer she was and how much she did. So let us turn to the music. So for our first selection, I mentioned the film Stormy Weather. So we are going to hear her and see her sing Stormy Weather. And this clip is available on YouTube. I will put the link in the description box. Now, Stormy Weather is primarily a showcase of some of the leading African-American performers of the day during an era when African-American actors and singers rarely appeared in lead roles. In 2001, Stormy Weather was selected for the United States National Film Registry by the Library of Congress for being culturally, historically, and aesthetically significant. And despite running only 77 minutes, the film features more than 20 musical numbers. Although Stormy Weather and other musicals of the 40s opened new rules for African Americans in Hollywood, breaking through old stereotypes and far surpassing limited roles previously available in race films produced for all Black audiences, it still perpetuates stereotypes. Notably, the musical numbers in the movie contain elements of minstrelsy. The performance of a cakewalk, for example, features flower headdresses reminiscent of the little black Sambo figures used in historical misrepresentations of Black American males. So I appreciate this context that we are hearing her perform. Film was done in 1943. So here's Lena Horne in Stormy Weather. So we just heard Stormy Weather performed almost 82 years ago. So Dylan, just what thoughts, feelings, emotions, memories come up as you heard this absolutely incredible performance by a incandescent Lena Horne?
It's interesting because I feel like I went into it because we talked so much about how the way music makes you feel, and I was focusing on that. But as soon as I moved past that, my brain is such like a lyrics person, and I thought it was so interesting how even 82 years ago, people were still using like the same sort of metaphors and similes like to describe sadness and heartbreak. And it's just interesting how like not only is there a universality when it comes to feeling that heartbreak, like to people that are alive at the same time as you, like people have been dealing with heartbreak and processing it through music in a very similar way for such a long time. it's it's just interesting to me, like, because so many people nowadays will refer to sadness or refer to that sort of thing as a storm, as rain, as, I mean, and it somewhat is obvious, but like, who was the first person to do that? Like, I mean, it probably wasn't Lena Horne, but like, she's one of, at least 82 years ago, she was one of the first people to be doing that. Like, her effect in like that song, as big as it was, probably affected singer songwriters for the rest of human history. I just think that's interesting.
Yes, no, I love that. Just in the universality of the experience of missing somebody, and then using sort of the natural elements as a way to kind of describe that.
Totally.
I think for me, her voice is it's like so beautiful and smooth, and she's so powerful, and then she's just absolutely drop dead gorgeous. And so I hear this song, and it's like she's singing about this experience we all have of being separated from someone, or maybe even deeply longing for something. And she's just, it's like, I feel not as alone. It's like, okay, we all really have that. Just simply beautiful. And then we see her as a star here on screen in this movie that highlighted African Americans as performers, and also, as we heard, had elements of minstrelsy. So it was just very mixed. However, this performance was just absolutely stunning. So beautiful. Truly. Okay, well, she had such a wide-spanning career performing up into her 80s that I thought I would try to get something kind of at different points. Now we're going to go to...
Yes, please. I'm excited.
We're going to go to 1973. So this is 2 years after she had a very painful year, as we heard in her bio, where she lost her father, her husband, and her son. And so this is from a 1973 performance that she did. It was in London with Tony Bennett, and she performed an hour-long concert for a live audience on BBC television. And later that year, ABC broadcast the British TV special in the US. The ratings were so strong that producers decided to book the pair into Broadway's Bingscoff Theater for the following fall for a 37 performance run of Tony Bennett and Lena Horne Sing. Their Broadway engagement ran from October 30th until November 24th in 1974, winning a special Tony Award and 2 Grammys for the soundtrack that followed. So we're going to see her here later on in her career, 30 years later. She's gone through, like, the civil rights movement has happened, this incredible tragedy and pain, and here she is singing with Tony Bennett. We're going to hear a medley of them performing together. So we just heard a medley of Lena Horne and Tony Bennett doing My Funny Valentine from their 1973 TV special. So Dylan, just as you heard these two performers, I'm just curious about what you noticed, what thoughts, feelings, emotions, reveries came up.
One thing that kept coming up in my mind was actually jealousy. Because I felt like, I don't know, you can see when someone is authentically happy and doing what they love. Like, you could see, like, when she wasn't singing, I feel like I could pick up on she was maybe forcing the smile. But then when she was singing and she was singing, like, obviously she loves jazz, she loves performing. Otherwise, she wouldn't have come back from this, like, horrible time in her life and then come back into the public light if she didn't really love it. I felt pretty jealous to watch that sort of actualized, like, seeing how happy it makes her to perform and sing. I feel like I'm young enough. I still can find that, but I wish I had that now. The thing I'm jealous that she has this thing that she is amazing at, loves, and, like, is able to keep on doing.
I just so deeply appreciate how open and honest and vulnerable you are speaking to, your envy at seeing her perform. And nobody's ever said anything like that on this podcast. So the rawer, the better. And you're also speaking to a concept that in depth psychology, we really talk or think a lot about. And that is oftentimes when we see somebody, and if they bring up strong feelings in us, be that of judgment or hatred, that's obviously probably a part of ourselves that we have not fully integrated in us or that we cannot accept in us. And I am definitely guilty of this. I still have to work on this with myself. And then the flip side is true as well. Like, if we see somebody that is very charismatic or talented, or like you're describing here, seeing Lena Horne being very passionate and just completely into her performing, that is also something that we can use to reflect and think, how can I have more of that in my life? And kind of you're speaking to that, like, I would love to be able to have more of this joy about what it is I'm doing. And that's the way to do it, right? Is like when we are activated, and it's hard sometimes. It's hard, especially
Totally.
when we're judging, at least for me, to be like, whoa, I need to stop and think, what does this actually mean about me? Like, how do I either need to incorporate these elements into my life, or how can I get more of that because she's radiant?
Yeah. I think that jealousy, I feel like whenever it's like a negative emotion, people are like, no, don't feel that. If you want good things to happen to people, it's like, two things can be true. I can be jealous of her happiness and not want to take it away from her.
Yes.
And so, like, I would only want to uplift and celebrate the fact that she found that. But there still is that enviousness, that envy, that I wish I could have that same sort of situation that she has.
And you can. I mean, you can. We all can, to continue to work to find that joy and passion, be it in performing, in your work. You absolutely can. Thank you just for that. I think for me, I felt transported back to the 70s, a time when, like, the whole set, everything was there. And I felt like, oh gosh, like just a deep appreciation. I felt like Tony Bennett is someone that could actually match her level of power. like he didn't shine brighter than her, and she just has this powerful voice. They were such a wonderful combination, and I loved My Funny Valentine, and then the way that they kind of did this dance around each other, and neither one of them like dimmed their light. It's like they amplified one another, and I had this feeling of like feeling tender and soft. Like Tony Bennett's number was kind of like softer and more muted, and then Lena just with this power. I felt like so enlivened to hear that. So that was great. All right, well, let us go to our third and final selection. And this is a song, a performance from an album that Lena Horne did when she was in her 80s. And the song is called Something to Live For. And this is a live album by Lena Horne. Now, this was recorded September 19th, 1994. So probably like around the time you were born, Dylan, or maybe a little bit after. And so she was in
No,
her
I'm sorry, it was before. I was born 2001.
Okay, it was before. So this was, a long time ago. And so she was in her 80s, and this performance won her the Grammy Award for Best Jazz Vocal Performance. And she's in a nightclub here. And the song we're going to hear is Something to Live For. And I chose this song because it's a slower ballad. And I feel like the title really speaks to, and I'm hoping will just be soothing to myself, to everybody who's listening as we're going through these very turbulent times in the world, like that we want to have something to live for that is good and true and beautiful and noble. And, it's not just a romantic partner. It's like we need to live for ourselves from deep inside. So let us hear her sing this ballad, Something to Live For, recorded in 1994. So we just heard Lena Horne in her 80s singing Something to Live For. So Dylan, I'm so curious what it was like to hear this slower ballad, the latter part of her life.
I don't know if it's in the gay gene or something, but I just have such a love for dramatic older women. And it's just like people like her. I don't know what it is, what attracts me to people like her and Carol Burnett and just like older dramatic women. Like, but I could just like, I don't know. I just feel like that
Oh, can you say
she
that one more time? We lost that little
oh
audio,
yeah.
went out for a minute. You
I
said,
said I don't I
yeah.
just feel so connected to her. She has this like older dramatic women just have an ability to pull you in. And as someone also who like cares about the technicality of singing and stuff, jazz singing is some of the hardest singing to do. Like in order to get that perfect vibrato and still sound on key, like it's just I feel like that song is just such a showcase of her talent and like the expansiveness of it, like how it has started from when she was so young and even into her 80s. She is able to convey such emotion and has such skill when it comes to singing a jazz song. It's admirable, and like that's a performance that I would stand up and clap, 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 and scream after. But I don't know if that's allowed at a show like that.
I love how just you express that. And I was thinking too, as you were speaking, there's a way that, and excuse me, I think she was in her 70s because she passed away in 2010. So she was in her 70s, of just like when you said, like just dramatic older women, there's like such an authenticity in her. And she's singing this song that's about, wanting something to live for. And we could almost think like, oh, well, could she really like sing that if at her age, like longing for a lover, romantic satisfaction? But the way that she does it, it's like she transcends the song because she's communicating like a state of yearning. It could be a romantic partner. It could be for like deep divine fulfillment, but like she gets across so authentically like this state of yearning, of like when we've all felt that at different points in our life, of like feeling like we were searching for something so desperately.
And also, I feel like it's something that I've come to understand as I've gotten a little bit older. Like, I don't know, you feel like as a kid that adults have it all figured out and like that they are just like adults. And you come to realize that like your parents were just people too. They were learning how to be parents for the first time, even though they seemed like these all knowing beings. Like, all adults are just living the same life, and like as much as maybe I don't like the phrase but I'm just a girl, it's like but she's literally just a girl. Like that woman in her 80s, like I feel like it often is spoke to like I don't feel 80, like I still feel so young no matter how I look or how I act or whatever. And it's just to know like that same girl at 16 that was forced into the Cottonwood Club by her mother and to dance, like realized her dream and is still that same girl performing on that stage when she's in her 70s. And so I feel like whether or not she's truly feeling it, she has an ability to unlock those emotions, like whether she's feeling it or not. And that speaks to her talent and speaks to just who she is as a dramatic older woman. And I love it.
Oh, that's so beautiful. I love that. And I really could like feel her communication of this yearning inside.
Yeah,
Like she could
totally.
just, and she's just looks absolutely amazing. And then we also get this wonderful jazz band. And I think I forgot to read this, but this was, I guess, the Count Basie's, some members from his band were playing with her, and we got to hear that nice little sax interlude as
Yeah,
well. So that would have been such a lovely venue also to hear her perform rather than in like a big concert hall, like an intimate kind of supper club. You see everyone's dressed up. There's kind of
yeah,
the glasses, the wine glasses half empty and on the table, like just a beautiful, beautiful evening.
totally.
Well, we're just almost at the end of our time. Dylan, it was just truly a delight to have you today and to be able to just hear more about you. And you are really so spiritual, and the nuggets that you shared with us about embracing uncertainty, about being accepting of ourself, and then how that also translates to how we relate to others, being more accepting of others, of using the mechanisms of projection, right, to understand art and literature and poetry, music, like with your mom, and then also that when we see qualities in others that we admire, that it's a call from our own psyche deep down to develop that within us. So you definitely taught me today.
Well, I
Before,
appreciate that.
and everybody, I will put all of Dylan's contact info up. And I do hope that you can maybe do that series on real
Yeah,
estate
honestly,
education. You would just be amazing at that. So I just want to encourage you forward.
thank you.
I'm just going to close this with 3 more quotes by Lena Horne. I was lucky, as many of my generation were, in having a man like Dr. King in our lives. He came at a time that we needed to take a long look at each other and see how similar we were. Then, my identity is very clear to me now. I am a Black woman. And then finally, I'm still learning, At 80, I feel there is a lot I don't know.
Oh, I love that last one because there's also a Taylor Swift quote that's like, I knew everything at 18 but nothing at 22. And I feel like that's just like so true. And it even goes to the fact that like she's just a girl. Like at 80 you're still getting new experiences, feeling new things, feeling like you don't know what's going on in the world, like you can't control anything. And it's like you think that you're going to feel even more sure of yourself, but like it doesn't actually change that much as you get older. Like you can hope for that assuredness, but I love that last one, like that, like you really like you don't know anything, like you think you know everything, but it's like everything is so much more subjective than that.
I love that too. And that's kind of my own philosophy that I hope to continue to grow until the last breath I take. And I think we really can if we have that openness and humility that we can learn from so many places.
Totally.
All right, everyone. Thank you so much for being here with us.
Thank you.
thank you for listening, reflecting, and being present with us today. Please leave us a review and comment. Jazz Therapy is edited and produced by Patricio Garcia. Sage Salmon is our social media coordinator. To connect with us, find us on Instagram and TikTok. Our email is info@jazztherapy.com. Check back next week for our next episode. May Jazz Therapy soothe your soul.